But if you don't follow Darnell Giovanni, you're an idiot.
What's poppin', Fight fans? It is your host here, Darnell Giovanni, aka Mystic Black, and I have a very special guest that I'm bringing in today. He is your favorite voice on the UFC team, of course, former host of the MMA Live on ESPN, of course, host of the Florian and Anik podcast. Of course, you watch that every week. My pleasure and my honor to bring in this man right here, somebody that I look up to, Mr. John Anik.
Darnell, it's great to be with you as we sit here a week and a day out from one of the biggest events of the year. So good timing, and I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you, my man.
Absolutely. Two Florida boys down here, of course. John, how are you when you have these weekends off? What are some things that you get to do?
So I've been working all day, my man. You know, I'm getting ready for UFC 264. I'm trying to get ahead of the game because I'm in a back-to-back situation working the show on July 17th. So as we sit here 8 days out, I have 11 of the athletes prepped already. Obviously, things change, and I'll add to my notes from there. But there's never really a day off. I mean, there's always something that's got to be voiced. And, you know, when I'm in Vegas for UFC 264, I'll be pre-voicing the July 17th elements for that show. So I got 3 kids under 10, though, to keep me busy. I'm sitting here with a baby monitor right now. I just put my son down for naps. So I'm always busy, my man, but I probably wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely. And I just want to go back for a little bit before we get into UFC 264. And when you hosted the MMA Live, you know, on ESPN, I love that show. Is there anything that you missed from those days besides, of course, Franklin McNeil, but anything you missed from doing that
Yes.
that show on ESPN?
My man, Franklin McNeil, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think there was a special vibe to that show because we were fighting for a sport at a place that made that an uphill battle, right? And look where we are now. If you fast forward, that was 2008. You fast forward 13, 14 years, and MMA is all over ESPN, and the UFC obviously has a deal with ESPN. But back then, we were all fighting upstream for mixed martial arts, trying to get it on ESPN too. So we were all just sort of very unified in that endeavor. And I think I'll always have fond memories of my time with Franklin and Kenny Florian and Molly Karam and our producers, Kieran Portley and the late Anthony Mormile and Zach Candido, who's still with us on the UFC side. But yeah, I mean, I guess for me, Darnell, full disclosure, like I'd much rather be calling fights and be doing live events than to be doing a show live to tape in a studio in Bristol, Connecticut. And thankfully, I've sort of gravitated towards the play-by-play work because I just think there's something so electric about the live event. But I'll always look back fondly on the MMA Live days, and appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, going into the UFC, did you ever feel any pressure like, oh, Mike Goldberg, you know, I have to live up to what he did. I have to come up with some kind of catchphrase. Was there any pressure going into the UFC?
No, I mean, that's never been my style. And I guess as far as the catchphrase in particular, I've sort of wanted to provide historical context for each individual moment and have the call sort of resonate with that moment, even if it's not perfect, right? Because I'm not just hitting a button and saying the same thing. Even if it's imperfect, at least maybe it's a little bit more organic to that moment. But I had to be myself, right? I mean, when Dana White hired me, it's actually, I think, probably the last time I've been in his office. But in 2011, he brought me in. He said, we didn't hire you to be Mike or Joe Rogan or anybody else. And I've tried to sort of be me, and that's gotten me in trouble at times. But it's kept me on the tracks most of the time. So, you know, I'm not going to change my style. And, you know, I just don't think you can. Like when those moments are happening, you got to be in your own skin. And for me, that's sort of the way I've handled it, really, since I called my first mixed martial arts fight, you know, for Bellator in 2009.
And people don't know that you were on Bellator back in the day. That was one of the first things you were on before. But just like me, I'm just emotional as you are. And when you're watching these fights, you're seeing these guys get knocked out. You want to say some words that you probably shouldn't say on the broadcast. So how hard is it to not like swear on a broadcast, on a pay-per-view broadcast?
It's hard on my podcast because I'm allowed to swear, right? Okay. I'm not really permitted to swear on television. We have a 7-second delay, right? So obviously they could bleep it out. And I had an episode recently where I said Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, and everybody thought I said Anthony fucking Hernandez, and I wasn't so sure when I listened to it back. But thankfully, I've never cussed on the air. I mean, and if it happens, Darnell, I'll be thinking of you in this conversation. But it's hard on my podcast to not have the F word be every other word out of my mouth, because in that setting, I'm allowed to cuss at my liberty.
Absolutely. And let's get into UFC 264, which is next Saturday. I am extremely pumped for this, and I'm sure you are as well. We got Dustin Poirier taking on Conor McGregor. And Dustin Poirier is a guy who was at 145, was heading towards that title. Conor McGregor kind of derailed that. Conor McGregor is somebody who's trying to cement his legacy when he fought Dustin Poirier at 145. Now they're in different spaces in their career, in a sense of Dustin Poirier is number one in a lightweight division, probably wants to fight for a title after. Conor McGregor is at a place to where he took some time off and he took a really bad loss, his first KO loss in his career. Who has more to lose here?
Gosh, Conor, in terms of his mixed martial arts legacy, this fight is huge. I mean, I think if he loses this fight, he's 1-3 at 155 pounds in the UFC. And lightweight was ubiquitously regarded as the division in which he was going to be his best, right? And I do believe it's his optimal weight class. So he's back for legacy. He's back for competition. He's certainly going to cash the promotion's check, but he was not going to be happy, feet up in retirement, without building upon his legacy with some more signature UFC wins. And that's why he's here. So I think both guys have a lot to gain. And certainly every time you step in there, you have a lot to lose. But I do believe for Conor, in terms of his legacy and in terms of the recency of this last meeting with Dustin, you lose 2 to Dustin inside of 7 months. That's going to be a hard pill to swallow. Whereas for Dustin, even if he were to lose this weekend, he's like, well, I still knocked the guy out, put him on airplane mode, as he said, right, 7 months ago. So, man, it's a crazy fight. Every time Conor fights, it's just a crazy, crazy setting. I'm getting a little anxious just talking to you right now, my man.
Yeah, and he said that in that interview with Brett Okamoto the other day, and he brought up having a war with Conor. He doesn't want to go in there and finish him fast. He says he wants to go to war and to see how much will he has to be a guy like Conor again, because he's seeing it as a different kind of matchup, not a trilogy. You think it's a smart idea for Dustin to view the fight in that sense?
I think so. I mean, Dustin mentally has evolved to such an extent that far be it from me to question anything that's going on in his headspace. Maybe I was a little bit surprised that he was so forthcoming with certain details, whether talking about this fight happening up at 70 or 65, right? He sort of intimated that he would have liked this fight to have happened above lightweight. And obviously the UFC wanted it to be a lightweight true title eliminator, which is great. But I don't have any problem with what Dustin is saying or doing. I don't expect this thing to go the full 25 minutes, though. I think there's so much weaponry on both sides that I just find it hard to believe that we're going to get a distance fight. But I think what Dustin is trying to prove to people, which he doesn't really need to at this point, is that he is the consummate bite down on the gum shield warrior, and his will to win. I think some people could match it. I don't know that anyone could exceed it. You really have to separate him from consciousness. And if anyone has the power to do that, it's probably Conor McGregor.
And multiple people have chatted about Conor McGregor being too nice when he first fought Dustin. He was nice when he fought Donald Cerrone as well and won that matchup. Is it going to matter if we see a crazy Conor or a nice Conor in this bout?
All I'll say is that I think this is a better preamble than to be on Fight Island in this weird climate with COVID tests every other minute. Your children are there. And there was just so much fanfare sort of surrounding Conor coming to Fight Island, just the intoxicating nature of Fight Island. And then Conor goddamn McGregor shows up. I mean, it was just bananas. So I think any other setting is going to be more beneficial. Obviously, he's been in Los Angeles for a time and will make his way to Las Vegas imminently. So I think all of that's good. I think being away from the kids and being in a more primal state, I think it stands to reason that would benefit him. But all of that pales in comparison to how much the experience of the fight is going to benefit him, right? Having fought Dustin so recently and now getting the chance to sort of not prove that was a fluke, but prove that you could make the adjustments and be the better man. Because if you go back and watch the first round of meeting number 2 between these two guys, Conor probably won that round.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that was a really good fight in the first round. Second round, of course, the leg kicks caught up to him. But you have had a front seat to see these guys for a good amount of time. Is there something that's misunderstood about Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor that you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, I mean, Demetrius Johnson said to me back in the day, and this was a long time ago, that Conor McGregor's understanding of range and distance management is just spectacular. Yeah. And so that got me wanting to sort of watch the McGregor film, and why would DJ put him on that type of pedestal? Dustin is acutely aware of how special Conor is. And even those comments to Brett recently, yeah. I was sort of surprised that he was as forthcoming with details as he is. I'm always telling these fighters, you know, like Dominic Cruz, my dear friend and broadcast partner, like, why are you giving away all your secrets, bro? Yeah, I do think when you see Dustin's toughness and just overall MMA acumen and skill and accuracy on hand, it's a sight to behold. Probably Poirier's accuracy and Conor's distance management.
Yeah, and I would love to ask you for a prediction, but obviously you can't do that. But more importantly, what would Jon Anik, the political broadcasting major who gets to watch these classics nowadays, tell Jon Anik now? And what does it mean to you to get to watch these fights up close and personal?
I would tell that kid to stop smoking weed, to stay the course. And, you know, thankfully I stayed the course, right? But there were times when I didn't want to stay the course, when I'm trying to figure out how to pass my like digital final at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, right? Yeah. So I think I paid some kid to fucking do my digital final. But, you know, to stay the course and just to believe in your skills and stay in your lane and, you know, don't be a yes man, but don't be afraid to say yes when you don't want to at times. And, you know, put the ego aside, which when you have an identical twin is very easy to do, because from day one you share DNA with somebody, and competition is so rooted in your being. But, you know, overall, it could all go away anytime. I mean, that I think goes without saying for a lot of us in this UFC space. So just trying to enjoy it while it lasts, understanding fully that it might be over in the not too distant future.
Yeah. And any matchups on this card that you're looking forward to that not too many people are talking about?
I mean, where do we even begin? Probably Ryan Hall against Ilia Topuria, because Ryan Hall will be in the Kenny Florian will be in the corner of Ryan Hall. And of course, Ken Flo's my dear friend and podcast partner. And Ilia Topuria is 24 years old and undefeated and has every skill in the book, and sort of a mentality about him that feels very promising and special. So that fight jumps off the card. You know, curious to see if Max Griffin can sort of serve as the favorite against Carlos Condit, because on paper, I think this is a fight he should win based upon where both men are at in their careers. That's not a doubt cast on Condit, but, you know, Max Griffin needs to win this fight if he's going to, you know, realize that top 15 and realize the greatness that he thinks he has within. So that one jumps off the card. And I guess Tuivasa and Greg Hardy, because nobody's talking about them, but they're two great heavyweights, and a matchup on paper that I think might also lend itself to a finish. So we're excited, my man. I can't wait to get to Vegas.
Absolutely. And John, I just wanted to say thank you. I met you in Vegas a couple years ago at Silva versus Diaz, and you told me, hey, when you get into, you know, the broadcasting and the talking, just hit me up and we'll do something. And I appreciate you so much for coming on here in this show. Hopefully we can do something together in the future, maybe in person as well. And before I leave, of course, I had to put this on and just say, you know, we're going to be okay this year.
Yeah.
Patriots are going to be fine. Let's go, Pats.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I wish I had my Cam Newton T-shirt. I've been telling my kid to start talking trash on Mac Jones and say, we like Cam, we don't like Mac Jones. But no, I say that somewhat tongue in cheek. But no, I'm excited, man. Full throttle. I like the receivers they signed, and obviously the tight ends. And I'm excited, my man. Cautiously optimistic.
Absolutely. And of course, the Mystic Hour Commentator of the Year, Jon Anik, right here. You can watch the Florian and Anik podcast every week. He will be on the broadcast, of course, next weekend. Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. Jon Anik, thank you so much for the time. Anything you want to say to the Anik fans out there?
I appreciate every last one of you, and I appreciate you, obviously, for the kind words and for the chance to come on. And we will meet again, my friend, either in person or right here in one of these StreamYard meetings, baby.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Anik, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll be back next week with some more people. Appreciate you all.